Okay, let's go ahead and start the rock type tutorial. And there's two different versions of the rock type. You can see on this version, the edges of the rock are much smoother right here. And if you look over here, you can see there's a much rougher edge going around the type. And so I'm going to show you how to do each of these two different versions. All it is just a different combination of filters. It's no big deal. You might see they both look good, so I wanted to have them both on the tutorial. You might find a use for this one, but that might look a little too grungy, and you might find that this style over here works better for what you're working on. So let's go ahead and do both. I'm going to go ahead up here and minimize these, and let's go right up here to File and select New. And for the width of this image, we're just going to go about 500. Okay, that's 500 pixels. And for the height, about 400 for the height, and that must be set to pixels as well. And resolution 75, color mode RGB. And now right down here where it says background contents, we are actually creating a custom background for this image, so it doesn't really matter what you select here. I'm just going to go ahead and select white. Because we're going to change the background anyway. So you could just put it on white and then just come up here and click OK. All right, just going to move this over here. And let's go right over to the foreground color here on the toolbar and just click on that, and that'll bring up the color picker. And then down here where the hex value input is, select that and then enter in 996633, and that'll give us that color we want to work with to create our texture for the rocky type. And just go ahead and click OK, and then now select the paint bucket tool and just click on the image to fill the background in with that color. And now press D and X on the keyboard to reset the foreground and background color. We have the foreground white and the background's black now, and that's what we need. Okay, let's get back to our texture. Come right up here to Filter, and down here, Texture. And then from there, select Grain. All right, and over here for the intensity of the grain, let's enter in 30. And 68 for the contrast. And then the grain type will be contrasty. And then after you have that, you can go ahead and click OK. And then let's go right back up here to Filter again. And down to Distort, select Glass. Okay, and where the distortion is, where are we here? The distortion is going to be 15, and the smoothness of the glass, enter in 7 there. And the canvas, this texture, the texture select right here, make sure canvas is selected for that. And then the scaling about 67%. You can see I had everything all set up already just to make everything kind of go a little smoother. But and this is the result here. You can see in the preview. You can actually make that 100% so you can see what you're doing there. But that's what we got so far. And go ahead and click OK. All right, now let's duplicate the layer. Well, it's actually the background layer, so all we have to do is just click on the background layer and drag that to the new layer icon. And then we'll duplicate that. It becomes background copy now. And on that layer, go right up to Filter and right down to Sketch and select reticulation there. And for the density, enter 50. And then for foreground level, that should be 0. Background level should be 50. And when you have that, go ahead and click OK. And next, I'll just come over here to Image, Adjustments, and invert that image. Okay. Now let's change the blending modes for that layer. Just come right over here to the blending mode menu and come right down to Color Burn. Now we're going to merge that layer down with the one below it. So come right up here to Layer and just select Merge Down, just to combine those two layers together. And now come up here to Filter again. We've got a lot of filters here. Over at Noise, and then choose Despeckle, just to smooth it out a little bit. And let's go up to Filter again, and down here, Brush Strokes, and select spatter. Okay. What we're going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and adjust it on the fly, real time, and wherever I set it, we can go ahead and set it to there. That looks pretty good right there. That looks pretty good. Go ahead and spray the radius there from 7, and the smoothness, you can put that at 7 too. That'll look pretty good. Go ahead and click OK. That'll work just fine. And let's go back up to filter once more and select artistic, and then the plastic wrap right here. And for the highlight strength, enter in 11, and then 14 for the detail, and then 2 for smoothness. There we go. Sort of gives it more of a texture, puts in highlights into the texture and grain, and it makes it look a lot better. You can see I'll put it at 100% here. You can see what we've done. And I like it. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Okay, now let's go up to the image menu here and to adjustments and select hue saturation. Okay, now I want you to put in 0 for the hue, and the saturation is going to be a -36. And then for the lightness, we can go -5. That'll work. Go ahead and click OK when you have that. And now one final sharpness to this texture that I want to do. I want to come up here to filter again, and then come down to sharpen, select unsharp mask, and I'm going to enter in, see for the amount. Actually, that's okay for the amount, but where it is right now. The radius, that's most important. Make sure that's 0.2, and the threshold. And all this is going to do, this is not, you don't have to do this, but it's just going to sharpen the texture up a little bit. You can see this is the before, and this is the after. It just sort of brings out some of the highlights and the grain, and I really like that look. So if you do, then go ahead and use the unsharp mask filter, and that's it. Go ahead and click OK. And let's run over here to the channels palette and make a new channel. And let's go ahead and fill this channel in with white. You can press D on the keyboard and you'll see the foreground color change to white. Go ahead and select the paint bucket tool and just click right on the image and you'll fill it in. And now press X on the keyboard now to make the foreground black. You see it's black there, so press X and make it black, and now go up to filter, down here to texture, stained glass. I think my mom used to do stained glass when I was a little kid. I think I was 10 years old. She used to do stained glass in the garage for a long time. It was kind of neat. But anyways, back to the tutorial. Up here where it says cell size. Now, okay, this is a huge thing, this cell size thing. And this border thickness adjustment. Okay, if you have large text, you're going to want to increase the cell size. And border thickness, all this is going to do, the more border thickness we have, then the more space between the rocks and the text we're going to have. Okay, does that make sense? The more space between the rocks and the text. So you could come back and if you don't like it, then you can redo this, whatever. But let's... I'm going to make a pretty good size R. I'm just going to make this big R on the image. And so these rock shapes here, well, they're actually just cell shapes right now, but they're going to look like rocks. I think I could probably make those just a little bit bigger, make the cell size a little bit bigger for what I'm going to do here. And if you want to go ahead and just follow along with what I'm doing, then you can make yours look just like mine. So but cell size, I'm going to go about 12, and actually, you know what? I'm going to raise that a little bit more. It's just not comfortable. I'm going to probably go about 14. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. And the border thickness, unless it's a huge piece of type, it's not too crucial. You can go ahead and put just 2 in there, and it should be just fine. Light intensity, we don't need light intensity, so you can leave that at 3. And go ahead and click OK when you have all that. All right, now we need to create the lettering for our type, or for our rocky type here. So over on the toolbar, select the horizontal type mask tool. Now the horizontal type tool may be selected, but if you click on that, a little menu will pop down, and it's the third one down here, horizontal type mask tool. And just go ahead and click on the image. And I'm just gonna make this huge R. I'm gonna go boom, R. And I will, just to I think this is going to fit okay, but and the typeface I used, in case you want to see if you can get the same typeface, you can look right up here in the options bar, and it's sort of like abbreviated. It's original Garamond, and you can see this is it's just a different version of the Garamond type, and I think that's how you say it, Garamond, or I'm not really sure, but anyway, so you can see here's just the basic Garamond version, but I'm using this other one, which is the original Garamond BT, and then it's bold, and then I'm going about 500 points for my type because I want it nice and large, and the sharpening and the softness for the anti-alias, it's just going to be on sharp. That'll work just fine. And so if you like it, go ahead and press the enter key on the keyboard to confirm that, and you will see it turn into a selection, and you need to center the type on the image. So come over here and select one of the marquee tools. Any marquee tool will work, and just bring the cursor just in the middle of the type or somewhere inside the type here, and the cursor will change to a point, and you can just click and drag to center that right on the image. Sort of hard to see. It's a little hard to see when the background color's white there, but there we go. It might not be as visible on the small video. If you're viewing the small video on the CD, it might not come out that much, but it's got to be there. It's supposed to be there. So, okay, after you have your type all set up and ready to go and centered on the image, come up here to select and inverse the selection, and then fill it with black. Come up here to edit, select fill. And then right where it says contents, use black from this drop down menu, and then click OK to fill that in with black. And there you go. Now I'm looking at it here, and I could have probably went a little larger on my cell size to match it up with the other images that we had on the video. Where did they go, by the way? Oh, there they are. Okay. I think this is the one right here. Yeah, you can see the cell size. It's going to look a lot different, but it's pretty close. It might look okay. I'm always worrying about it, but I think it'll look just fine. Let's see how it turns out. Okay, let's get back to the tutorial here. Now you can come up here to select and deselect the selection. And now we're going to apply some filters to this channel that the type's on. Go right up to filter and down here to sketch and choose stamp, the third one from the bottom here. Okay, and you can see what it's doing to the cells. I don't know why, but it looks like they're rocks. It's creating like these rock shapes, like a rock wall or something. But you can adjust the light and dark balance here. But so for this setting right here, light dark balance, let's just go ahead and put in 39. And for the smoothness, 5 will be just fine, unless we can figure out a better smoothness. If we turn the smoothness up too high, then it'll just smooth everything out, and that's not really what we want. So maybe if you wanted the rocks to sort of blend together a little bit like this, sort of looks like cereal, then you can go ahead and go with something like that. If I take the smoothness all the way down, then there's no smoothness, and it also gives us more of a gap between the rocks. But I'm going to go ahead and just make that 5 for now. It just creates a nice rounded shape, and they look like little rocks in there. Okay, well, I'm going to come right up here to OK. And now this is where we make the adjustment. Remember I was talking about on the beginning of the video. Let me get my images up here. How you can see the edges here are nice and rounded. The rocks are nice and rounded in this type. And in this one over here, you can see it's got jagged edges. Well, all that is just the crystallize filter. That's all it is. And I can show you how that is done. You can either leave it like it is right now, Or you can come right up here to filter, and where it says pixelate, select crystallize. And this is a very, very low setting in the crystallize dialog here. You can just go number 2. Actually, I don't think number 2 will work. You have to go at least 4. There you go. And then it'll, or actually 3 will work. Okay. 3 for the cell size, and you can see it roughing the edges. Okay, if you want that. If you do, go ahead and click OK. And there we go. And of course, it's going to look much better once we apply the texture to the type, but you kind of get the idea. Now, if you want to have more space, we can make this R look like the rock's almost falling apart. And to do that, all we would have to do is apply the stamp filter one more time, and just come up here and where it says sketch, and then select stamp again. And you can see it looks totally different. It looks more rockier now. And so you can go this far with it if you want. This is the farthest I'm going with it. You can stop before applying the crystallize filter, or you can apply the crystallize filter and then apply the stamp filter one more time, and then you'll get this result if that's the kind of result you want. This is more like my favorite. I like the grungy one. I'm probably going to go with this one today. So I'm going to go over here and just go ahead and click OK, and let's use that. That'll work. Okay, go ahead and hold down the Control key on the keyboard, and that is the Command key on the Mac. And click on the channel here, Alpha 1 channel, and then go back to the Layers palette. Click on the background layer. Now come up here to Edit and select Copy. And then go back up to Edit and select Paste. And then now we can actually throw away our background layer here. We can actually click on it and drag it to the trash can on the Layers palette, and it'll disappear. Now we can make a new background by clicking on the new layer icon and then dragging the new layer below the layer with the type on it, and then coming over here on the toolbar. And I'm just going to use white here because white is my foreground color right now. And I'm just going to click in the transparent area, and there we go. Now we have a background. So check it out. We've just applied the texture to the Rocky R. That was just one of the channels in the channels palette. And so there you go. And now what we do is apply some layer styles to just make it look more 3D. We're going to apply a bevel. We're going to apply a drop shadow to it. And then we can experiment with, we could change the colors, enhance them, do whatever we want. So let's go ahead and go up to Layer, Layer Style, and down to Bevel and Emboss. Let's go ahead and add the Bevel and Emboss first. Okay, I'm just going to position this over here a little bit so we can see what's going on in the background there. All right. Now for style on the Bevel and Emboss, where it says structure, that can be inner bevel. Inner bevel will work just fine. And smooth for the technique. Okay, set that to smooth. And for the depth, we want to increase that. Let's go, just put it all the way up to 1,000% for the depth. And for the direction, we need to have it set on up. And the size, now this is adjustable. We can, if you have large type, then you can increase the size too. It might give you a better result if you have really large text. But I'm going to go ahead and put number 2 in there in the size. And the soften, that will be just 0. Okay, before we apply the layer styles, we need to activate the layer that has our big R on it, which is layer number 1 there. And then come on up here to Layer, Layer Style, and let's first apply the Bevel and Emboss layer style. Okay, and for the structure of our Bevel and Emboss, the style inner bevel will be just fine. That'll work great. And technique, just set that on smooth. And for the depth, let's go ahead and raise the depth all the way up to 1,000. And then for the direction, we need that to be up. And the size will be 5. or actually the size, let's go ahead and take that down to 2. If you have large text, then you might you can increase the size a little bit and it might look better for larger text. But anyway, and down here, let's see, 120 for angle will be just fine. 30 for the altitude, that looks good. Okay, and glass contour, I'm not sure if we're going to adjust that yet. So let's go ahead and move on to highlight mode, and it should be set on screen. And opacity should be about, let's say 60 for opacity. And shadow mode, make sure that's set on multiply. And opacity for the shadow mode, let's take that down to about 43. Okay, and gloss contour can give us different effects and sort of enhance the texture. In other words, if I select this this curvy one over here, you can see it enhance in the background. If you don't want that enhancement, then you don't have to do this, but sometimes working with larger text or smaller text, we may need that enhancement to just brighten it up a little bit. You know, they have different ones in here you can kind of play around with to make it look different. There we go. Okay, so for the bevel and emboss, that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and check the drop shadow, or just click on the drop shadow style over here on the left. And then now we can just come in here and put opacity about 80. And for the distance, I'm not sure. Let's go ahead. Distance, we can probably go about 1. That looks pretty good. And the size of it, we don't really need that big of a size. I could probably enhance the opacity a little bit. See, it's just all about experimentation when doing the drop shadows and the styles. And so that looks pretty good right there. And we don't need any noise or need to adjust the quality at all. So we're gonna go ahead and just click OK. And there we go. That is basically that's our rocky type. And we can make adjustments to it. We can change the color. We can come up here to image adjustments, and I can enhance the brightness and contrast of it. Do something like this. Make that texture really stand out a little bit. There you go. Or we can adjust the hue and saturation. I can, you know, if it's too brown, it might look like kind of like rust. So if you don't want that look, then just take down the saturation a little bit, and that'll give it more of kind of like a natural, earthy type look. And when you adjust the hue, that'll change the color of it, and I can put in a little more green into it, you know, if I wanted it to look like that, and, you know, lighten it up a little bit, whatever, you know, it just takes some experimentation. Really quick, I'm going to go ahead and stop the video. And I'm going to switch over to the other one, you know, the one where the other version of the rock where we will be working with the crystallized filter that's applied to the rock. I'll be right back. Okay, now we're back, and you can see here that I did the exact same thing, but I kept the crystallized filter applied to the channel this time. Okay, and then I just followed the exact same steps that we did a little while ago on the video. And you can see here, if you want to see the adjustments that I made, I'll go ahead and double click on bevel and emboss. Here we go. And I did a few different things. I think I adjusted the size maybe, and I changed it from smooth to chisel hard. Okay, that gave me a nice harder edge. You can also try chisel soft too. Sometimes that'll make it look a little different. But those are the only thing, that's the only thing I changed really. Everything else is pretty much the same. I might have, I think I turned up the size of the bevel a little bit because it just makes it look better for this R or for this effect because it's from the crystallized filter. But that's pretty much it. And I just increased the drop shadow. I increased the distance on the drop shadow, and that's all I did. So there you go. I also adjusted the hue and saturation. I took the hue down just a few notches, and maybe the lightness up a little bit to get this color of the R. So that's both versions. We've done this version here and this version. And it looks really cool though. If you do like, if the type's smaller, it looks like someone like grabbed rocks and they built the letters out of rocks. And that is exactly the effect that I wanted. So if you just keep the smooth edges, like you see on the rock image here, then it'll look just like that, like someone brung in rocks and set them down and made this word rock. And so that's really cool. And this one over here would probably be better for more like a game, kind of like a game logo or something a little more extreme. But so have fun with those. They were a lot of fun to make. And all right, let's go on to the next video here.